Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the Kent Holste podcast right here on the KentHolstePodcast.com website and as well as the YouTube channel. I'm so glad you decided to click this link and join in the conversation, as today we're going to be talking about a touchy subject. I know as parents, we don't always like to hear what we're doing right or what we're doing wrong, because it's our responsibility to make the right choices when it comes to raising our kids. Am I correct? I know for me, there's been plenty of times in my life where I've felt just that. I didn't want to take anybody's advice. I didn't want to believe what other people were wanting to see from my life. But sometimes we have to think about what's going on in our lives and how we're reacting and choosing to do things with our children. And obviously, from in the past, you can tell that the topic of children is very important because, you know, I've had plenty of experience with raising kids because I have 5. And even though I haven't spent my entire life raising those kids 100% of the time of their life, there's been plenty of time within that lifespan that I had a chance to. And a lot of the things that I was doing as a parent was wrong. Maybe I was being too tough. Maybe I was being too hard. Maybe I was making rash decisions as to what I was doing as far as being a parent. But now, after looking back, it's quite apparent that there was a lot of things that I could have done better. And the question I have is, are we as parents doing enough? Are we doing enough to raise our children the right way? Sometimes I feel like we're not. I feel like a lot of parents drop the ball when it comes to giving the example that they should to their kids. I've seen just recently, in this last year, 2 different parents make choices that I don't know are really proper or politically correct. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Your duty as a parent is to ensure the health and safety of your children. Now, for me, when I hear that parents are leaving their younger children in the hands of another teenager of theirs while they go off and do business work outside of the state, it seems a little bit out of control. I don't know about you, but I would not trust a 18-year-old with a 5th or 6th grade type of generation age kid. I don't think that a 18-year-old fresh out of high school, chances are, is responsible enough to take care of a child that young. But yet there are parents, believe it or not, that choose to leave their children behind, going multiple states away, and that's okay. Now, I get it. An 18-year-old is an adult. But just because a 18-year-old turns 18 does not mean to me like they are responsible to take on the duties as if they are a parent. Because let's face it, these 18-year-old kids are not responsible. They cannot take care of themselves, let alone a child. I just think that it's not right. And then it comes to the fact of, what are these kids being taught by their own parents? That it's okay to be disrespectful towards other adults, that it's okay to lie, cheat, and steal, It's okay to teach other kids that it's okay that just because they can get away with it, that they could too get away with it. It's a chain reaction. And it all comes down to if you want your child to be around people that are a bad example or not. And the debate could come that you don't want to pull your child away from the only friends that they have. Well, to me, it comes to the point of what's more important. Teaching your kid what is right and wrong so they live a successful, healthy life, knowing that lying and cheating and stealing is not the answer to living your life. I am a firm believer that the people that you put yourself around is how you are going to act. And the funny thing is it just doesn't happen when you are a child. We see that even as adults. Who we hang around is how we tend to act like. If you are around negative people, you tend to be negative. If you are around people who tend to do drugs and alcohol, you tend to do drugs and alcohol as well. It's a proven fact. So in my mind, why would you allow your children to be around other children who act disobediently, who do things that are morally not proper or correct? Why would you allow your children to learn these bad habits because other parents choose not to teach their children proper life etiquette? And to me, it is frustrating. You may be listening right now and you may be thinking to yourself, well, geez, Kent, you sound really upset by this. And of course I should be, because this is the thing. When we come back, I'll tell you why this is upsetting to me right here on the Kent Holste Podcast. Have you seen the Kent Holste Podcast website yet? If you haven't, now's a good time. It's all at www.kentholstepodcast.com. It's more than just podcasts. There's interviews, blogs, sports talk, the corner ropes, circle of friends, and so much more. So what are you waiting for? Check it out today. It's at www.kentholstepodcast.com. Join the community. So the reason why this frustrates me is because the way that I was raised. Looking back at my life and how my parents raised me, they taught me to be respectful. And yes, I didn't live my life like this. Let me make it very, very clear. I did not always live the way that my parents tried to engrave my mind, per se, because I was stubborn. I wanted to do what I wanted to do because other people's opinions and feelings and thoughts and everything above check mark didn't matter. Okay? And I'm not proud of that. I'm frustrated by that because it wasted a lot of my life. It made me get into situations that were not right. It made me live a life where I was making bad decisions and hanging out with people that were making the situation worse. I wasn't hanging around people that were well-mannered and would say, Kent, you shouldn't be doing that. Rather, I was hanging out with people that told me and encouraged me to continue what I was doing. And the thing is this is my point. When I would bring friends over and my parents noticed how they were acting, and if they felt like those people were not safe meaning good for me in the long run, that they were not a good example, okay? Are you taking notes here? a good example for me. Like if they cussed, if they swore, if they wore clothing and acted like they were rude to adults, of course they would be like, no, those are not the type of kids you should be hanging out with. If I hung around people that were nice and respectful and they said, yes, please, yes, ma'am, yes, sir, all this stuff, of course, those are the people my parents would think, yes, those are the people you should be hanging out with. And trust me, my parents were very vocal on who I hung out with and who I didn't hang out with. It wasn't because they were trying to be mean or rude to these kids. And to these kids, it may have come across as that. But there is a reason as to why. They were trying to protect. Simple as that. It's your job as a parent to protect. It's our job as parents to make sure that they are learning to live life the way that they should. And I regret not listening because those are my parents. They deserve better than that. And unfortunately, I did not think that way as a kid. And this is the problem with our world today, to me at least, that there's not enough parents out there that are willing to take the time to say, this is what's right and this is what's wrong. And if you act like this, this is what the consequences are going to be. No parent wants to see their child grow up in the criminal system. No parent wants to see their child sitting in a room blocked by a thick piece of, whether it be glass or plexiglass, whatever, in a jail, in a treatment facility. Because this is what the consequence comes to if we do not raise our children right. I've seen it happen. I've been in those types of places. I've seen kids struggle with different types of depression, suicidal thoughts. I saw a girl when I was in high school in a treatment facility that had cuts on her arm, and I am not kidding you when I say this. They were one after the other from her wrist all the way up past her elbow. Not only that, she was bulimic. And it makes me wonder now as an adult, what was her family life like? Was her parents doing everything they could to teach their daughter that regardless of what they feel about their body, what other people say about themselves, they are perfect, they are beautiful, they are amazing. It doesn't matter what other people think about you. It doesn't matter what criticism people say about your looks. Because as a parent, regardless, your kids are yours. They are your blood. They are the child that you created. And whether it was planned or not, whether it was something that you worked hard for and then the child comes and it's not what you expected. Because believe it or not, there are parents out there right now in our world, in our society, in our communities that judge their children. How wrong is that? These parents should be ashamed of even remotely thinking that their own child is not perfect. Because just like in the world of the mindset that we have in our own selves, we should always think that we are perfect, that we are the best at what we do. That too, we should think and say to our children that they are the best, that they are amazing, that they are beautiful, that they are unique and special and one of a kind. It is our duty as parents to make sure that we love our kids the best that we can. And maybe, just maybe, there would be a slight chance, a slight possibility that these problems and these issues that we see within the juvenile criminal system would go down. We need to be better parents. We need to be a better parent for our kids because they need us to, regardless of if it was intended for you to be a parent or not. You are called to be a role model to them. You can do this. If you're listening right now and you are in the same boat with me and it frustrates you to see kids in our society act in such crazy, ridiculous ways. And you know what's frustrating for me is I was one of those kids. And the unfortunate thing about that is my parents weren't one of those that were just sitting there and watching it all happen. They did whatever they could to fix it. And the horrible thing about that is I refused to give them the benefit of the doubt and make things better. And that hurts me. I am ashamed of what I did. And it all comes down to pride. I feel like there's a lot of parents out there that just don't want to see and admit that their kids have problems. Or they just don't want to admit to themselves that they are having issues that they don't know where to start or where to begin to be a better parent. Or maybe we've talked about this before, by the way. This is all just a recap. That maybe, you know, they're just thinking that they're not doing anything wrong because this is how they've seen things their entire life. That's how they were raised. And that's unfortunate. But you would think in a society where there's so many people that are vocal, that this is wrong, this is right, I'm going to protest, I'm going to do this, that these same people that complain about all these as important issues, that they would focus on themselves and realize that they're part of the problem. That they are definitely part of the problem. And yet no one does anything to make things better, to fix it. And it's easy. It all starts from the source. You can't just blame your kids and think that they just get it out of nowhere. There has to be some sort of owning up. And you know what? I'm sure my parents did that. I'm sure they blamed themselves. What did we do? Where did we go wrong? They didn't do anything wrong. It was me. I chose to be disrespectful. I chose to live a life where I didn't want to see the truth. I didn't want to admit that I was wrong. I did whatever I wanted when I wanted, and that wasn't the way life should have been. I lied. I stole from my parents. I did a lot of things that if you knew, you would be like, wow, Kent, you were a jerk. And the sad thing is, I wouldn't disagree with you. I know that I was a jerk. I know I said and I did things to my parents that were flat out disgusting and wrong. But luckily, my parents, as I said on prior podcasts about being a parent, our children, is that they stood by me. They loved me. And as much as how hard it may have been to continue to do that, they did it. And that's the prime example of how a parent should truly be with their child. You know, sometimes it's hard to punish our kids. It's sometimes hard for us to admit that they're not the perfect child that we would like them to be. But that doesn't mean that it's not possible for them to be like that. If you teach your child how to be respectful, they'll be respectful. It may not happen right away. And sometimes you just have to let them learn the hard way by suffering by the consequences that they decide to choose for themselves, just like I did. When I chose not to listen and I did the exact opposite of what they were trying to tell me not to do, sometimes I had to sit and accept the punishment, whether it be sitting in juvenile detention, whether it be sitting in front of the pastor being scolded and being taught many lessons as to why it's important not to be defiant, why it is important to honor your father and your mother, why it's important to be respectful to others, how you live your life today. Being a parent makes the world of difference. And if you are a child listening to this, I give you props. If you want to make the right choices in your life, listen to your parents, especially if they've had a hard life and they're telling you that this is what I've been through. These are the mistakes that I've made, and this is why you shouldn't make those bad choices because that's what I had to suffer as a consequence. Listen, we're not making up these stories just because. We're not saying these things just to try to warp your mind. No, we're saying these things because we care. We're saying these things because we don't want you to live a life that is going to be hard, where you have to sit and look at a room of 4 walls and not be able to enjoy the freedoms that you get when you live a life that's healthy. Do you think that these people that are in lockdown facilities are truly happy? No. They would rather be out. But the biggest thing is what they do on the outside once they do get out. Do they learn from their mistakes and move forward and make the most out of their life? Or do they continue to live down that road of living continuously, getting in trouble, doing the wrong things, being involved with the wrong people? Just like I always say by the example of my old junior high school teacher, Mr. Fuller, do the right thing. Whether you're a kid, a teenager, whatever, or whether you're a parent, do the right thing. Now, granted, I'm not perfect. I might get off of here and do something that completely goes against what I just said. Does that make me a bad person? Does that make you a bad person? No. Only if you choose to continue that road of making those mistakes. Even then, that still doesn't make you a bad person. It just means that you need to work harder. It just means that you have to do more to fix the wrongs that you've done in your life as a parent. I want to talk about this today because I just felt like enough is enough. I hear these stories of these kids and how they're living their life without their parents around because they can't, find a job where they can be there for their kids at night. And unfortunately, this is the sad part about this. These are single parents. They have no choice but to do whatever they can, I'm assuming, to make an income. And I get that, okay? But the fact remains is you're leaving your child with someone that is not responsible enough to know how to make sure that, number one, we're still in the middle of school season. Are their young child getting their homework done? Are they going to bed and getting the right amount of sleep? Are they being nourished in the right way by eating the right things for breakfast, for dinner? And unfortunately, there's families out there, even that have one parent at home all the time, where they're not getting those things. And we're living in this world where people ignore that fact, and there's no one willing to see that and help them or ask if they would like a good meal. Because let's face it, I'm not always the best cook. All right. And maybe that's part of the problem is there's a lot of single parents that just are horrible cooks. They don't like to cook. They would rather throw in a TV dinner and that's good. And there's no problem with that. But for a young child, there needs to be nutrients. There needs to be good food. They need to eat healthy so they can go to school and be attentive and learn. And they can't do that if they don't have the right things to get to that point. So I encourage you, if you're listening to this today and you know someone that's been going through this, I don't know where we can go with questions with this. Because this is tough. What do you do as a parent looking from the outside in of these families, these children that are friends with your own child, and they're just not the right fit? You know, and maybe this is one of those questions of what would you do? Like, is it okay to pull your child away from these other kids? Is it okay to be overprotective and say, no, you're not going to hang out with them anymore? Is that wrong? Or are you being the bad parent by preventing your kids from gaining the experience of having friendships with others? But still, where do you draw the line if there's situations that you notice that are not right? So when we come back, we're going to talk more about this. Join in the conversation in the comment spot. I know this is a very sensitive and tough subject to talk about, but let me make it very clear. If you're going to comment, please be respectful. I've said it many times. I know I wasn't the best parent. You don't need to bash me. You don't need to say all this stuff. It's a time to be supportive and respectful and to build up others and to give advice. Maybe you heard me talking about something that you're like, oh, okay, I know how to handle this situation. Because, you know, maybe it's more than just contacting DSF when you hear about these kids that are not being taken care of, or the parent goes away and they're left alone, or they don't have a 18-year-old. Maybe it's a 17-year-old. Is that right? When is it okay? And what is the proper age for a child to be left alone at home without an adult for a certain amount of time? Let's talk about that. This and more on the Kent Holste podcast. Are you looking to join a good community with people that truly care about your feelings and emotions? Well, I encourage you to check out Kent Holste podcast website, where you can find Circle of Friends. Circle of Friends is a place to be a community, but more importantly, a family. This is a page to be supportive by sharing special events that are positive or even letting others pray for you. A place that people can come together without fear of being judged, no matter of race or disabilities. A time to be that person that takes the time to care for others when it's needed most. We are all not just friends, we are family. It's the Kent Holste podcast website at kentholstepodcast.com with Circle of Friends. Hey everyone, I just want to take this time to thank you for tuning in to today's show. Without your support and watching these videos, this podcast wouldn't be where it's at today. And the same goes for the website as well, and the YouTube channel. So to help me out even more, if you haven't done so yet, please like, share, comment, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. And don't forget to ring that bell so you can be notified when a new amazing content comes out. Also, don't forget to check out all the other social media sites as well, and like, share, and comment, and subscribe there too. It all is being a part of this community where we can come together and show that we care for one another so we can motivate and encourage others. So thanks again for tuning in, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of the show. You know, it's amazing what can happen when you can come together and talk about difficult situations. You know, the hardest thing is seeing other kids struggle, seeing other kids live a life that you know is not right, and it makes you wish that you could be there for these kids. That you could be the one that could be like, you know what? Do you need guidance? Do you need someone to take you to a place where you can join others who can inspire you? And you know, it's more than just, you know, encouraging kids to go to a youth group. It's more than just handing a Bible to a teen or whatever and say, you know what, if you're looking for a good roadmap to life, this is it. We need to be the people as parents, and even if you're not a parent, do something to make a difference. You know, we hear about different programs that motivate kids to stay away from bad situations like Boys and Girls Clubs or Big Brothers, Big Sisters, or, you know, there's so many different organizations and nonprofit organizations that are designed to help kids and adolescents that struggle with attitude problems, that deal with broken homes and drugs and alcohol. You know, there's different programs that are designed to help kids, you know, understand that, you know, being respectful, working hard, learning about responsibilities is the way to start a path to success. And unfortunately, there's a lot of kids out there that don't have that opportunity to have a life where there's role models that say, okay, if you stay away from these types of things, you're going to have a life where you don't need to worry about failure or all that. If you work hard, you can have a life where you can have your own home. You can work hard to have a nice car or a truck or a motorcycle, a motorboat, so on and so forth. You know, as a YouTuber, it's so encouraging to see these people that had lives that maybe were easy, or maybe they were hard and difficult. But now, because of the platform that they have created, they are successful. You know, I watch a lot of YouTubers that work on cars and trucks. And there's one guy specifically that I watched that became very, very popular within his work, where he now owns a racetrack that was vacant for 2 years, I believe. And now he's able to take his content to a whole new level. And for a year now, he's able to put on shows at his own venue and to do things that, in my mind, are unorthodox. They've never been done before. And because of his excitement for motors and speed, he has now created this phenomenon. And he's created a fan base that I have never seen. And it's growing. And now he's going to other venues like he's had. But the stage is getting bigger. It's all the hard work that he has chose to put in. There's another YouTuber who her mission is just like mine, to promote positivity and encouragement, living a healthy life. And her life hasn't been easy, but she's taken that road to success by choosing to live a healthy life. And it's proof that, yes, in life, you may have good times, you may have bad times, you may have been raised in a bad situation, but you can change all that. You can have the worst parent life that you've ever seen as a child, but that can be your motivation to not be like that. And I've seen that. I've heard people say that. Oh, I grew up in a home where there was alcohol and drugs, abuse, yada, yada, so on and so forth. And I refuse to have that in my home with my kids. I want to give my kids a life that I never had as a child. I want them to live a life that they can look back on and go, that's how I want to raise my kids. And it starts a trend. It starts a legacy. And it's all because of good parenting. So what advice can you give to other parents who are struggling, don't know where to start? What can they do to teach their kids that are struggling with attitude problems, addiction problems, so on and so forth? In the comment spot, join in this conversation. Join this mission to make our kids' lives a successful one. And make sure that we are encouraging other parents to join support groups so they can know what to do. Because there is support groups for parents that deal with hard and tough times with their children, that don't know where to start, don't know where to go, don't know what places are good for their kids to go. And another thing is it all has to do with good schools. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people who don't have the choice of having an alternate choice of school. That what school they have is all they got. How do you work through that? Put that in the comment spot. There's so many things that we could talk about from this one conversation today. And I know at points I became frustrated, and that's only because I want what's best for our kids, our kids' future. Because it's just that. They are the future of our country, not company. Our future of our country. They are the future presidents. They are the future congressmen and women. This is what it's boiling down to. Look at how things are right now in our world. If it doesn't scare you what the future is going to be like for our kids and our kids' kids going forward, then there's something wrong. Because I don't know about you, but it sure as hell scares me. Because I don't want my kids to grow up in a world where there's hate, shootings, drug abuse, people that continue to live in a world where bullying is a thing. It can all change, but it's all how you choose to live it. So think about that today. And as always, think and be positive. Do what you can, not what you can't, to make sure that you're raising your kids in a way that is going to lead a life of success and good things can come their way, instead of them living a life where they're feeling alone, or they get to the point where they are alone. They have no choice but to be in a situation where they're alone. Don't let them get to that point, because I believe in you. Don't you think you should too? And if you see someone who served our country, whether it be military, police, fire, medical, if they serve, take the 2 seconds that it takes to give them an elbow, give them a fist bump, tell them how much you appreciate them. You never know how much they might appreciate that one random act of kindness. So do that today. And until the next time we talk, thank you for listening. Be safe, and God bless.